The Great Fire of Rome. On the night of 18 July 64 AD, a small fire breaks out in a workshop that faces the wooden stalls of the Circus Maximus. At that time, Rome holds close to 1 million residents, most of them asleep. Within minutes, the flames reach the cedar-shingled roofs that line the circus, and the city's worst urban disaster begins. Rome before the fire. Rome's housing market relies on six-story apartment blocks called insulae. Almost all of them are built with pine frames and oak floors. Many ground-floor shops trade in olive oil and lamp fuel, and each shop can store up to 5,000 liters. Typical streets in the central districts are under 3 meters wide, which allows July winds, often measured today at 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, to channel flames like a bellows. The city does employ a fire brigade, the Vigils, but it numbers only about 7,000 men, and their equipment consists of leather buckets, small hand pumps, and axes. These four conditions, tall wooden housing, liquid fuel, narrow wind tunnels, and limited firefighting capacity, turn a single spark into a citywide threat. The first 6 hours. The fire reaches full strength quickly because the wind pushes it northeast along the Circus Valley. Within the first hour, 3 of Rome's 14 administrative districts, the Aventine, the Palatine, and part of the Suburra, are burning. Roof tiles, heated well beyond 800 degrees Celsius, explode and fall on the crowds that have run into the open streets. Many tenants try to carry small household statues, while others escape with nothing but the clothes they are wearing. Most insulae have a single internal staircase. When that staircase catches fire, every floor above it becomes a trap. At these temperatures, bronze statues begin to soften, and marble wall panels fracture and drop. By midnight, the fire has a front more than 1 kilometer wide, and the vigils can only try to steer refugees toward the Tiber embankment. The full 9-day disaster. The main blaze continues for 6 straight days until a change in wind direction slows it down. On the 7th night, a secondary blaze breaks out on the Esquiline Hill, probably when sparks land on a timber yard that had seemed safe. That second front burns for 2 more days, so the total length of the emergency is 9 days. When the embers finally cool, an official survey records the scale of the damage. 3 districts are erased, 7 others are severely damaged, only 4 escape serious harm. Roughly 45,000 buildings lie in ruins, including 132 public granaries. Because those granaries supplied subsidized bread, the price of a loaf rises to 5 times its normal cost, and food riots threaten in several markets. Modern estimates suggest that 400 to 500,000 residents have lost their homes and must camp in public squares or along the roads leading out of the city. In addition to the housing loss, the Senate's archive wing collapses, and thousands of legal records disappear for good. Nero's response. Emperor Nero is staying at Antium, about 50 kilometers south, when he receives word of the fire. He returns the next morning and orders his 80-hectare palace gardens on the Vatican Plain to open as a refugee camp. He then instructs grain merchants in Egypt and Africa to ship extra cargoes at state expense, which pulls bread prices back to pre-fire levels within 2 months. Within days, he issues the strictest building regulations Rome has seen. Main roads must now measure at least 6 meters. Every facade that faces those roads must be a stone or concrete portico. New structural walls must be brick or local tufa rather than timber. Roofs may not rise higher than 21 meters. And large private houses must install their own water tanks so that future fires have an immediate supply. These measures will shape the reconstruction of the city, but they also clear about 100 hectares in the central districts, exactly the space Nero needs for a planned new palace complex, later known as the Domus Aurea. That coincidence fuels gossip that the emperor set, or at least welcomed, the fire to free up land. The search for a suspect. Street talk soon blames Nero, and some senators quietly repeat the same charge. To redirect the anger, Nero points instead to the city's small Christian community, which at this date numbers only a few thousand believers. Within weeks, hundreds of Christians are arrested. Some are wrapped in animal skins and killed by dogs during public shows. Others are crucified. Still others are tied to posts and burned after dark to light imperial garden parties. Even among Roman crowds used to gladiatorial combat, these executions cause unease. The sympathy that follows becomes one reason the Christian movement gains new converts during the later 1st century. Historians Tacitus, Suetonius, and Cassius Dio will all record that rumors of Nero's own guilt survive long after the trial's end, but none of them can prove the charge. Rebuilding and long-term effects. Reconstruction begins almost at once and will consume an estimated 3 million cubic meters of brick and stone. Engineers also extend two major aqueducts, the Anio Novus and the Aqua Claudia, adding roughly 50,000 cubic meters of fresh water to the daily supply. In 72 AD, only 8 years after the fire, builders break ground on the Flavian Amphitheater, better known as the Colosseum. It rises on land that once formed the artificial lake in Nero's palace gardens and will seat about 50,000 spectators. Because of the new codes, the rebuilt city now has wider roads, more open masonry, and better access to water, which together reduce the risk of another citywide blaze. The Great Fire destroys a third of Rome, yet it forces new safety standards and clears the ground for future landmarks. The disaster shows how quickly an ancient city can fail and how strongly it can adapt.